We're getting there. We're live now. We are
Are
here.
we? Well, look at us,
Yes. And I always
live
start by
performance.
saying it's Saturday. Well, you know what day it is. Uh, it is 10 a.m. On the West Coast, 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and a bunch of different times in the middle and all over the world. If you're watching us live, you can comment during the show. If you're listening to us on the podcast, then please try to watch the live show. It's much more entertaining.
We're
Uh,
very entertaining when we're live.
Yeah, it's more interactive that way. And then we always have our little openings. So we're going to start the show. Here we go.
And now, Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. Here's Dan Rosenberg and Raffi Manassian.
It is a bouncy number. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh yeah, that's definitely got some vibe to it.
Yeah, so I'm Dan. Over there is Raffi. And
Yeah,
so first thing I want to talk about on the show today is it's coming up on the best day of the year to buy a car, in my opinion.
absolutely. I
And
think
I'll give you the moment to buy the car. So I've done this twice. You want to buy a car on December 31st.
excellent.
If you're buying a new car. If you're buying a used car, you probably get a pretty good deal then too.
If you buy from the dealer,
Yes, because dealership obviously, because they've got goals. They've got monthly goals, they've got quarterly goals, and they've got annual goals. And that one day is the last day of all three.
that's right.
So, and I recommend going in after dinner time.
It's the automotive purchase trifecta of
It
dealer
is.
buying.
It is the trifecta of every possible bonus they might have.
Yeah,
They have goals to hit. Now, they might have already hit them. I mean, it's possible that, okay, we don't care. We want to sandbag it and wait till next month. We're going to put this in January to get, the new year started off right, which might not work for you. But if you're looking for a brand new car or a used car from a dealership, go in after dinner on New Year's Eve. This year might be a little different because there's not going to be a lot of New Year's Eve parties, but in a normal year, they want to get out of there.
well, and believe me, it's been anything but a normal year. And car sales are down, down, down. And people are worried about that as the year comes to a close. So deals will be made.
Yes, there will be lots of deals. There will be a lot can happen is I guess what we're saying. So that's always what I recommend. And if you're not in the market for a car right now, then don't worry about it. But if you've been thinking, hey, December, I want to get one before the end of the year, try to pace yourself. Give yourself, today's the 5th. You've got 26 days to do your research and get that car, hopefully, on that day. We did that with my wife's car in Santa Monica in 2004, going into 2005. And the guy was, all right, just go. Come on. I got to get out of here. I got places to be.
Let's go.
And literally the night ended with us and the finance manager signing the paperwork. Everyone else had already left. They were gone. So,
You wore him down.
yeah, and there's no way to get, like, if you'd say, you know what, I don't want to pay that for this. Forget this. I don't want that. They have no one to go to change it. Their goal is, yeah, they can leave and not make the sale and then have everybody be pissed at them. Or they can say, okay, fine, I'll mark that down a little bit more for you.
Yeah, because everybody leaves the office. They go, he's going to close. He's going to close.
They're in the box already. So it's all over.
I got to close.
And
That's when you get the floor mats, you get the undercoating, you get all that stuff, and they just throw it in.
yeah, I need it. And the one thing a lot of people always ask me, this is a common question people ask me about. I know I'm sounding like I'm, people always ask. True story though, GAP. GAP insurance, sometimes it's called. GAP waiver, sometimes it's called. GAP stands for Guaranteed Asset Protection, is what most people refer to it as. But also it's the gap between what your car is worth and what you owe on it.
Yeah.
And I recommend anybody who buys a car from a dealership and finances the car with not a whole lot of money down, purchases this plan. And the reason is, and I'm not, I have no interest in this. I'm not selling them right now. I can't sell you one. You have to buy it from the dealer at the time. But if you buy, let's just make a number, $20,000 car, tax license, you're paying $22,000, let's say. And you put down $2,000. All right. So you have put nothing down for equity. You owe exactly what you paid for the car. If your car is totaled a week later, your insurance company, most insurance companies, they don't care what you owe. What you owe is completely irrelevant. All they care about is what is the replacement cost of the car. What would it cost in the current market to buy that car? Well, obviously, if you just bought it, chances are it's not going to be that big of a gap. But let's say 6 months down the road, you put on 10,000 miles, car's not as nice as it was, the new model comes out, now it's a $15,000 car, you still owe $19,400 at that point. Well, who's going to pay that $4,400 difference? You are, if your car is totaled. And total could be, an accident, or it could be it's stolen. So who's going to pay that? Well, if you get this gap coverage, which is anywhere from $300 to $1,000, depending on the policy that they're trying to sell to you, it'll cover it. And it'll also usually cover your deductible as well, which is great. So if your car gets totaled, you don't have to pay the deductible or anything. Now, the biggest thing that you have to realize is the dealerships do mark that up quite a bit. So their cost might be $250, and they're selling it to you for $750.
Right.
So and I say this every time, when you buy anything aftermarket, just cut it in half and make that your offer. So if they say it's $750, say, I'll do $375 or $350, or make a number. Usually they will come down a little bit, because if you say no, they make nothing. So I do recommend it, but before you buy it, check with your insurance company, because there are companies, I believe Liberty Mutual is one of them. Liberty, not a sponsor. But do they have the Emu and Doug? Is that Liberty Mutual that has the?
I can't remember. No, that's the yellow one. That's not Prudential.
It is Liberty.
Are they Liberty?
It might be Liberty. I don't know. They all have different gimmicks that are going on.
They're all trying to be funny, because funny is memorable, and yeah.
Yeah. The Limu Emu. I think it is the Limu Emu. Liberty Mutual Limu. Yeah. It's the Limu Emu and Doug. And I think they have and I think Allstate has a plan where you can get it where they'll cover full replacement cost. So then you don't need the gap coverage. So obviously you don't want to pay for it if you don't need it. Now, if you do buy it, and let's say you pay your car off early, you can get a prorated refund of that policy.
Look at you, Dan. You're absolutely on top of the thing I was going to say, which is that even if you do buy it and you decide that you're going to sell your car later, you can, like you said, you can get some of it refunded. Incidentally, I do think gap coverage is one of two things that are really important, especially if you buy a pre-owned car from a dealer. The second being an extended warranty. They're usually inexpensive. You don't have to buy them from the dealer, by the way. You can get your extended warranty from your own insurance company, who actually will give you some recommendations for where to buy that extended warranty. These can be $2,500 to $4,000 depending on your car, but as everybody well knows, you get something wrong with your ECU or your main computer board or anything associated with the software on an expensive automobile, and even an inexpensive car, you're going to be out $3,000 pretty quickly. So these things do pay for themselves rather quickly, especially if you plan on keeping your car a long time.
Yeah, and those, again, very negotiable. And those too are cancelable. So if you sell your car and it's not transferable, some of them are, some of them aren't, then you can get a refund. You can cancel it as of the day you sold your car or traded your car in, especially if you trade it in. The dealer cannot take that warranty and resell it. Once it's only private party. So if I sold Raffi my car and I had an extended warranty on it, or a service contract, as they're also called, a VSC, vehicle service contract, then
your acronyms.
Oh, you got lots of acronyms, BFD, and I can then pass it on to Raffi and say, hey, this goes with it. Sometimes there's a $50 transfer fee or something like that. Check to make sure that you have that, but usually it goes with the car in a private party sale. When you sell it to a dealer, whether you sell it outright or trade it in, just call and cancel it. They'll send you a check for, whatever the prorated amount is. So if it's, a 5-year policy and you only used it for 3, you get 2 years back. So you get, 40% of it, whatever you paid back.
Yeah.
So that's important. And when you finance, those are good because if you decide to cancel it and you're still making payments on your car, they'll actually mail it back to your bank and it'll come off the principal of your loan.
Oh, it will.
Yeah. So if you decide for some reason you'd want to cancel it which I don't know why you would if you still have the car.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of companies out there that you'll see, and maybe we'll get a one on the show sometime where we can make the official Clutch Radio vehicle service plan that you can purchase, and we'll make $1.
Yeah.
But there are some that I see Ice-T is now advertising for one.
Yeah.
And they have different people. Chris Berman from ESPN was doing one. I think it's the same one. You've got to be careful of a lot of those, because if they're not requiring like an inspection of your car before they give you coverage, then they're just collecting money from people and anybody. And then if you go to file a claim in the first 6 months, they probably won't cover it because,
right. And one of the challenges with volume sales in those arenas is there's so many things they won't cover. And if you don't read the fine print, you'll go and you'll think, oh, okay, this is covered by my extended warranty, and the shop will advise you, no, it's not. It's not covered. If you read line number 347 in section 489-2, you'll see that subsection B was added in 2014, and it precludes this particular homoculator, which is the Japanese manufactured homoculator, which goes underneath the Ramacue, and post-Ramacue homoculators are covered, but yours unfortunately is a pre. So,
and the big one that they don't cover is if something faults that's not covered and it causes something else to break.
Yes.
Sometimes they won't cover that. Like
That's
brake
right.
shoes are not covered, but
That's
the
right.
brake system is, because brake shoes and brake pads, who has brake shoes anymore? Brake pads, that's a wear and tear item. But let's say your brake pad breaks in half and it breaks your rotor, and your rotor snaps your fuel line and all these, the whole fuel system, your whole brake line, they'll be like, it's not covered because it was caused by a non-covered part.
Exactly. Just like if you have a tire blowout and your rim is damaged, the tire is at fault, not the rim. And so you have to pay for the rim to be repaired, and you have to pay for the suspension to be replaced, if all these other things that are related to it, which is so much more than a tire blowout. I'm wondering if our listeners will write in and ask, what the heck is a homoculator?
If they don't know what a homoculator is, they shouldn't be watching this show. I mean, obviously, they're not car aficionados.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to do, in April, the April Fool's edition of car terms. That'll be a fun one.
Yes.
There are many. The most famous is the turbo encabulator.
I think Corinthian leather might be up there too.
Yes, Corinthian leather is up there as well.
Because it's not that fine. It's always fine Corinthian leather. I don't know.
Rich Corinthian leather. Rich.
So we do have a comment from Jake. He says in his 20s he bought a $3,000 extended warranty from a big company via his Chevy dealer, Warranty Gold. A year later, they went out of business. How do you protect yourself from that? And what is a homoculator? You spelled it wrong, Jake. But
newbie mistake.
Yeah, it happens.
It's the UM.
Most of the warranty companies are covered by insurance of some sort. They have an insurance policy that covers them. Yeah. So if they go under, the insurance company still has to honor the claims of that policy. So that's part of the fine print. And had I prepared enough for warranty work, which I was just going to talk about Gap, I could have printed out what one of the contracts looks like. And it is, Raffi's not joking. There are subsections and subsections, and I think there are words written upside down in foreign languages. There's a decoder ring you have to buy.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the challenges, and Jake brings up a good point, because that does frequently happen. Usually what happens is the company gets purchased and absorbed. And if the contracts are actually healthy enough, that they can be carried over as an asset to the new company, they will carry that later. But most of the time, what happens is with a lot of these protection companies, they overextend on their purchases. So they sell more product, and not enough of that product is able to cover them from the risk factors associated with, because all insurance is statistical analysis to see whether or not it makes sense from a risk perspective. And so they run over that, and they're no longer a viable commodity. They cannot recover by selling more packages. So they go under, and what's left is a pile of stuff that no other insurance company is going to want. And so then you do have a problem.
It's really a big Ponzi scheme.
Most of insurance can be if you're not careful. Yeah. Here's the other thing that happens with insurance that not many people know, especially with automobile insurance. There are only a few major automobile insurance companies, and these are companies that have done an amazing amount of work figuring out exactly where they need to be with their statistics. And what happens is marketing companies come in and they offer a marketing umbrella, which is more attractive than the dry, boring insurance company. And so with their marketing umbrella, they offer unique packages, they offer roadside assistance, they bundle everything up, and then they offer you that as insurance. But if you look at your policy, it's X insurance company, and it's underwritten by Connecticut Mutual Insurance Company. And that is one of the biggest companies that does insurance. And it doesn't really matter because you're still getting the product, but make sure that the company you're working with is well established and has a robust history of proper product saturation, so that you don't run into the situation where you can lose your investment. There are some means for recovery for someone like Jake who does lose some of that money, because you can make a claim with the U.S. government, because insurance companies or people who sell insurance must be under federal guidelines. So there usually is some recourse, though not much. I just got a check in the mail from a company that was representing insurance for a home purchase that I made in 2002. So eventually it does get resolved.
Wow.
Yeah, 2002 is when the claim was made, and it was a class action lawsuit for, claim. But that's how long it took to get the actual cash.
So you got $1.50 and the lawyers got $15,000.
I think the lawyers probably got $3.5 billion, and me and 3 million people got $106.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, the name of the insurance company, like if a dealership, he mentioned the Chevy dealership is where he bought it. Normally, they have pretty good policies, especially Chevy. They'd be selling, back then in 2000, GMAC would have been their main one. But there's also Ally, which kind of came out of GMAC after the bankruptcy, and Ally has products. Full disclosure, at Tread.com, where I work, we sell Ally products. We also have another company called ASC, which is a warranty company that they've got amazing coverage on cars all over the place. What they do is you go in to get your car fixed. The shop, any shop can just call them up, and they're given a credit card number to pay for the warranty. Like, they don't have to wait and fill out forms and send it in and wait to get reimbursed. They get a credit card right over the phone. And, that's why we picked that company, because they are good at actually making payments, which, a lot of insurance companies fight you the entire time, and they find, okay, fine, we'll go ahead and pay for it.
Yeah.
For your regurgitometer. You got to get a regurgitometer too.
Listen, I think they stopped putting them in cars because too many people got sick from the off-gassing.
Yeah, and the acid reflux.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't want that. So, we answer questions. If you have any questions at all about buying, selling, trading, leasing, collecting, stealing, insurance, warranties, that's what we're here for each and every Saturday. We also talk about classic cars. We talk about gas prices. And now we added a section, we talk about car movies, which we'll get to in a little while. But I know you talk about bring a trailer all the time,
Oh
and
yeah,
I've been watching it like it's car porn is what it really is, because I always go on and go, you know what, if I want to buy like just a cheap car,
yeah.
find something that would be unique, a $3,000 car, could I find? And every once in a while something pops up on there,
Hmm.
but there's one that's on there now that's getting a lot of national attention,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't that familiar with this car.
Ah, yes.
And it's a 1957 BMW
Yep.
that is apparently there's like 250 total made, give or take. And there's very few available for sale. And when they come up for sale, they go for crazy money. And
Yeah.
this one on Bring a Trailer is, last I looked, was at $1,600,000 with some time left.
Yeah, it's one of many cars that are fetching in excess of $1 million now. And a couple things have been happening in the market. Now, $1 million cars have been around for a long time in the collector community, so it's nothing new. In fact, uh, I think the highest price paid for an automobile is for a Ferrari GTO at a public sale that sold for, I believe, 52 or 54 million dollars. Now that's an enormous amount of money to pay for any automobile. There's the BMW 507 Dan just pulled up. This was BMW's first real performance car. It has a V8 engine. Now BMW had made race cars in the 30s that competed in European races, but this was an opportunity for them to get into the US market. And a fellow by the name of Max Hoffman, who had an automobile dealership in the United States, felt that BMW could put together a really nice competitor to cars like the Porsche 356 Speedster, the Mercedes Roadster, and so BMW built this car with the intention of selling it for about $5,000 to $6,000. It ended up being a $10,000 car because it was so handmade and so carefully constructed that they were losing money on every one.
But they made it up in volume.
They made it up in volume. And because it was so handcrafted, it's an aluminum body with details, beautifully handcrafted details. They only sold 250, as Dan said, 200. I think the number's 252. And they were so popular that Elvis Presley bought two of them. And gorgeous, gorgeous car, designed by Count Albrecht von Gortz, who was an industrial designer that had done automobile design before. But this was really his most beautiful automobile, and certainly at that time. Gortz went on to work with Japanese companies. He worked on the Nissan Silvia. He also worked on the 240Z, and is actually credited from Nissan for having done some of the inspirational work for the 240Z. So here's the 507. When these sell in current times, they tend to sell for anywhere between 2 and 3 million, although John Surtees, a very well-known race car driver and owner of a BMW, I believe he may have owned it since new. His sets the high bar. I believe that car sold in excess of $4 million. But it was an absolutely fantastic known provenance car. This is a wonderful car, one of 15 painted black from the factory. It has the rare Rudge wheels, which were also offered on Mercedes 300 SL series cars. This is a disc brake car, which is the later series. This is a Series 2. The Series 1 cars had drum brakes, and the fuel tank was behind the seats. Series 2 cars, the fuel tank went to the rear of the car, and they added front disc brakes. The relocation of the fuel tank allowed for more room, so taller drivers could fit more comfortably. Disc brakes made the car much more comfortable from a ride and drive perspective. They did have a problem, though. When they first delivered the car, these were offered with a V8 engine that BMW did not properly test in high temperature climates. So cars that went to Argentina, Portugal, Italy, for example, The engine had a problem with the head and the motor warping at different temperatures, so the gasket that was supposed to prevent that was not going to necessarily do its job, and you experienced engine failures. So in 58 and 59, BMW replaced the engines in substantial number of these cars at no cost to the owners with a better engine head design. So this car has that better engine, which is the 11-bolt engine, and it has some other very nice, interesting details and features that make it quite unique. And it's a fabulous running, driving car. It's really quite nice. I studied this car very carefully, and it's got an awful lot to offer. It should probably sell, if bidding continues, for in excess of $2 million.
Yeah, look at that, 128,000 views, 4,700 watchers.
Yeah.
Now, you put this car at a regular car auction, a live auction, you can't get that many views.
No, this is one of the fantastic things about Bring a Trailer, which is you will get literally thousands of people looking at your 1971 Buick. Thousands. Now, you put it on eBay, you might get 100 people looking, maybe 1,000. You put it on Craigslist, 8 of your neighbors are looking, and that's it. So
if you put it on Facebook, you just keep getting messages. Is this still available? Is it still available?
Exactly.
Is it still available?
And, one of the best things, again, about Bring a Trailer, great market saturation, and they curate the people that are on there. So you're not getting, somebody saying, does this car have disc brakes? When it actually says in the ad it's a disc brake car, because the question will be answered by 4 or 5 other people who will go, yes, read the ad, it's got disc brakes. All of them had disc brakes from X to X or whatever. It's like Wikipedia in that the data during the week-long auction is constantly being curated and recurated so that everybody gets an awful lot of information. You can become a BMW 507 expert by reading the 500 comments.
Yeah, I mean, it is shocking. I mean, how many people have a story about the car? How many people have, just so much information? And you obviously, on Bring a Trailer, Raffi is very well known on Bring a Trailer, award-winning Raffi, because of the comments that you've made on a lot of different cars.
Yeah, and one of the things that's, again, fun about Bring a Trailer for car person like me is, you can go on there and you can talk about cars, but I frequently go on there and learn things like, geez, I had no idea that the 1966 Riviera was built with this particular series of options, and it was called the Riviera X, and it was called the Riviera X Plus, and there was an X Plus Executive, which you could get with these options. And there's the car. This is the rare X Plus Executive offered only at this dealership during the spring of 1966.
So this is where Raffi's knowledge comes from, ladies and gentlemen. If you too want to be knowledgeable of things, now you do have our friend Charlie's car up. And if anybody's looking for, this is a gorgeous car. If anybody's looking for a nice car in the California area, I'm going to share this one real quick because, he's a friend and you're helping him sell this car. It's down in California at the moment.
Yep.
It is it's a 1990 Mercedes-Benz 500 SL.
Yep.
First year of that body style. It's the hard top and the soft top.
Yep. And this is, the owner has owned this car since 1991. He bought it in Connecticut from a Rolls-Royce dealership, and it had 4,000 miles. And he had it shipped back to California, where he was living at the time, and he drove the car regularly and kept it maintained, like you would expect anybody who cares about cars to do. Then he brought it to Washington, had it there for a few years, and then drove it down to Santa Barbara, where his vacation home is, and he used it as a vacation car when he was down there. So he's selling it now just simply because he's got other cars and he doesn't need to keep it. And someone is going to get a really fantastic car, low miles, 70 some thousand miles, well maintained, beautiful leather interior. It's probably the original paint. I did not paint meter it, but he said that it's not been in any accidents ever. And looking at the car, while it's not perfect, it's probably about as nice as you ever want one. And you couldn't get this car new today for anything less than $100,000. So here's an opportunity to get one for a very reasonable price. Even if you needed to spend some money on it, so what? You've got a Mercedes convertible.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is the owner does have a little bit of fame. He's a little bit of a famous guy, which maybe the seller can actually find out why he's famous, or the buyer, and they can tell their friends that they have a very special vehicle.
Yes, a special car. A famous person owns this car. His fame is certainly very well embedded in our.
Yes, it's a liquid situation.
Very
fluid situation. So. Yes.
Yes, it's fluid.
Yes. If the car was here, I might be interested in it, but shipping it up here, that alone adds $1,000 to it.
That's true, but then you could fly down and drive home.
That's true.
It's not a hard thing to do, and a fly down to Santa Barbara or
I love Santa Barbara's airport.
Oh, it's a great airport. You fly down there, and what is it? Maybe $130, $150, and you could make the drive home from there. I made it in one day. But you could also you could break it up, stop somewhere in Oregon or something, see a friend if you know somebody there. But that car would make the drive back.
What I love too is he's got the Washington plates on it.
Yep.
And he also has the Island Fitness sticker on the windshield, so he can get parking at the local gym here.
That's always helpful.
Yeah. And also, I immediately started looking at the comments, and some of the people are just so wrong. Like right off the bat, you get the negative Nellies.
Yes.
And they don't know how to read a Carfax. That's the first thing.
Yes.
It spent 17 years on the East Coast. It's going to be full of rust. I want to see the undercarriage. It's like, read the description. It's been in California since year one.
I like when people ask, I put cars on Bring a Trailer, and they're registered and titled and licensed in Washington. And they ask when it was last smog checked. It's in Washington. There is no smog checking here.
Right. Well, there was emissions in King and Pierce County.
Well,
he's in Kitsap County. There's no emissions here, and they did get rid of the emissions testing because every car was passing.
That's right.
And we're just wasting people's money.
Right, and they're not only wasting people's money, you're wasting infrastructure money on the management of all of that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with emission controls on cars. It has done a tremendous amount to reduce the level of CO2 in our atmosphere. So completely support that in the states that have it in place and in the states that have enormous amounts of automobiles excessively polluting. And that is a problem. But for a state that does not have that, it's usually because on an aggregate basis, it is not as much of a problem as it is in other states that do those tests.
Yeah. Now we do have a question from Ray, our friend, the car dealer. He's disappointed again with a used Honda. Cautions buyers of their automatic transmissions. Bought an 08 Honda Odyssey with $160,000 miles, excuse me. And there was a catastrophic leak at the output shaft seal right near the phlebotometer.
Yes.
And it left him with no tranny fluid. He broke down in Fife, of all places. They filled it with fluid prior, the seller, I won't say the dealership name, although he put it in the comments, filled it with transmission fluid prior to the auction, and it all drained out by the time he was driving away. He wants to know what years did Honda improve their transmissions on the Odysseys and Accords. It seems like each one he gets always has issues.
So that's a very good question. And I actually am still in the process of doing that research, Ray, because I've not been able to get a definitive answer on that. There's some that say there's about a 4 to 5 year span from, I believe it's 06 to 10. There's some that say that actually is a little longer. The Odyssey seems to be the one that gets it the worst or affects it the most on a percentage basis. I generally tell people to avoid Honda Odysseys from the aught years, the later aught years, 06, 7, 8, 9, and then the earlier Odysseys, actually the 90s, late 90s ones that didn't really look like a minivan. They looked more like a tall station wagon. Those are actually fantastic cars, very reliable, very durable. They don't have nearly as many issues mechanically. And then when you get into the 12s, 13s, and up, they seem to have solved that problem substantially. But they are known for having transmission problems. Interestingly enough, the dealership that may have filled that transmission fluid may have not known that it was a problem because they may have just thought, well, fluid's down, let's fill it up and let's move it along. So they may have done a full fluids on the car without giving it a more substantial period of time to figure it out. But even under those circumstances, after filling it, the mechanic should have done a check to see if it was still dropping fluid, because it's a pretty fast, I'll say profuse drop of fluid that's moving when that is happening. And it's good in that it gives you an indication that something's going to go wrong. But sorry to hear about that, because I would generally, again, avoid the Honda Odysseys from that series, just simply because that is a problem that does seem to be happening a lot.
Well, I found that, and I think I mentioned this before, when I had my Acura, the MDX, which has probably a very similar transmission to the Honda Odyssey, that the Odysseys that had tow packages seemed to have more problems than the Odysseys that didn't have tow packages. And a lot of that is people tow things without thinking about, well, how much can I actually tow? Well, it's got a tow bar, so I'm thinking we're okay. And you just never know. The original Odyssey was made in Japan until they brought it to North America. So that might have had something to do with the quality issue, that once we started doing them here, no offense to us compared to cars built in Japan, but they tend to be a little better. Japan's a little better than North Carolina at putting cars together. But also, I haven't heard a lot of Accords having issues. The Odyssey, I always heard of, just you need a new transmission at 80,000. It's like the Ford Taurus. That was always, if you had a Ford Taurus that had 70,000 miles and you were on your first transmission, you might as well just go put a transmission in it. Because it's going to need it.
But look, here's an important thing to remember. Honda is not a car company. They are an engine company. And so when their first minivan was not a minivan at all. As I said, it was a tall station wagon. And Honda had experimented with tall station wagons for some time in their product line. And a wagon has basically the same features and mechanical requirements as a sedan. When you start to increase the wheelbase, increase the width of the car, and add more weight and put more vehicle dynamic challenges into the engineering of that car, it does not scale up like it scales up just making a regular sedan. So Honda doesn't, they've attempted to make pickup trucks, but they had to go through a lot of learning to do their SUVs, they made the pickup truck, I forgot the name of that pickup truck.
Ridgeline.
Thank you, the Ridgeline. And they've improved substantially over time, but I believe some of the trouble they're having is because with the minivan package in the Odyssey, as you explained, Dan, people were using it, Americans were using it in the way Americans will use any kind of van. Let's tow that boat.
And also load it up with a ton of stuff. And 7 passengers? Sure. Let's put 7 300-pound people in to go.
Right. And most people don't realize most minivans are carrying around anywhere between 400 and 500 excess pounds all the time. Well, that weighs on a chassis, that weighs on the transmission, that weighs on everything. But the things that suffer the most, because tires and brakes you can repair and change those out, the transmission suffers the most because it's bearing the load all the time over mile after mile after mile of the excess weight and all of those cycles of acceleration and deceleration.
And also, let's not forget when Honda first started doing SUVs at all. They started with the Passport.
Yes,
I believe that was the first one in the early '90s, and that was an Isuzu Rodeo. That wasn't even a Honda.
that's right.
And then the first and second generation were built, by Subaru/Isuzu.
Subaru.
Yeah, Suzuzu, which was in Indiana. They were building those. So, the Passport nameplate is coming back, by the way,
Okay.
between the CRV and the Pilot. They're going to have the Passport again. One final question, and then we're going to go to some old school, even though I feel like we've talked old school already, but I know we haven't. Connor has a question. This is all you, Raffi. How bad is the bore scoring issue on a 2008 911? Is it a better bet just to go with the 991?
Wow,
That's a deep question.
that's a really good
I'll look it
question.
up for.
In my experience, look, there's two things you want to think about, Connor. If you're looking for a Porsche 911 of any kind, number one, there are thousands of them for sale, thousands at any given time. The thing that most people don't realize about Porsche is that they're a volume manufacturer. They make a lot of automobiles. So at any given time, you can literally Google 911 Porsche and thousands are going to come up. So don't buy at a distance, buy locally, take your time looking. Whatever 911 you want to get, absolutely 100%, if it's a 991, 997, whichever series you're looking at, we just call them all generically 911s, absolutely have a PPI, professional pre-purchase inspection, done by somebody who knows Porsches, and make sure that that includes a compression check, and if you can get it, a rev counter software check on the car, because these cars have data rev storage, so you can check as to whether or not the car has been raced on a track, and total you might spend $500 PPIing with those things on a 911 to figure out which one is going to be right for you, because you don't want a car that's been over revved in its rev history 6, 8, 7 times. There's all sorts of details of things like the bore scoring, and there's an intermediate bearing that is problematic in certain series of Porsches. There's issues with the Metzger motor on certain series of 911s. So you can literally pick and choose as you funnel down and pick your car. Yes, thank you, Jake, the DME report. And that's a super important thing to get with a Porsche for any time that you're going to look for one. People will try to buy a Porsche for within their budget, and they'll say, well, I only want to spend $26,000. That's absolutely the most. And yet a $30,000 Porsche is a better purchase if all of those things line up and you get a really nice solid one owner car that's been well maintained. Then you're paying a little bit more to begin with, $4,000 more, but a year later you don't have to pay $4,000 for some of those additional maintenance and repairs anyway.
Yeah, and now Ray says, oh Lord, never buy a used Porsche unless you're a mechanic. What a POS. Now, we're not talking Boxsters here. Yeah, the lower end Porsche, there are problems with. But if you're getting a high-end 911, obviously the maintenance is expensive, but they are pretty good pieces of machinery once you get to the,
Porsche makes absolutely fabulous automobiles. There's no question about it. But you have to keep in mind that many of the people who buy them drive them hard. That's the reason why they buy them in the first place. So this is why you want to do your diligence. Check the car. With a performance vehicle, and Ray is absolutely right, and Ray's experience has to do with being a dealer, because dealers will see cars that have been heavily used, and they oftentimes will not have exposure to the owners. as a private buyer, you can actually go talk to the owner, find out who they are, find out what they do for a living. Believe it or not, it makes a difference, because people that have bought cars, taken good care of them, maybe they're one or two owner history, you can chase back all the things. If they show up and they've got a notebook of every receipt for everything they've ever done, and they show you the car and it's in great condition, and you ask if you can take it and get a PPI, he says, look, take it to my mechanic. That car has been serviced by this guy for the past 6 years. You don't even need to take it there. Go there and talk to him. Here's his cell phone number. He's not hiding anything. That's the kind of car you want to buy. So, so buying a Porsche, the actual purchase of the Porsche is going to take you maybe 1 day once you find that car. But take 3 to 6 months to find that car, so that when it's time to pull the trigger in that 1 day, you're ready to go. You've got your guy ready to do a PPI. You've done your homework. You know every single thing that you need to know, and you just go and get that car. And pick your color, pick your interior, pick your options. That car is out there. Porsche made many of them.
Yeah, and I just typed in Porsche 911 on Craigslist locally here, and 161 came up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Thousands, Porsche has made thousands of automobiles, and fantastic cars. So take your time, and certainly feel free to contact us if you have any questions, details about things. The horror stories are always the things you're going to, if you Google Porsche 911 maintenance, bore scoring comes up, Metzger motor problems, 15 grand for X. I just paid 30 grand for carbon disc brake replacements. You're going to hear that stuff. Try to sift through to the genuine owners. Join the Porsche Owners Club before you even buy. Talk to as many Porsche people as you can. Go to the dealership, your local dealership, and talk about the new Porsche. It doesn't matter that you're not able to buy one today. They are interested in your business, especially if you're young. 20 years from now, you may wander in there with the resources to buy a new one, and that's what they want.
Yeah, they're not like Toyota where they try to sell you the car on the spot, or Chevy. They know it's a long-term relationship. Now, Ray makes a good point too. Keys. If you need to get a key made for a car, you got to go to a dealership, and it's like $400 to $500.
Yep. So a key. That's one of the things you always want to ask with a contemporary car. Thank you, Ray. Is does the car come with a spare key? Because the spare key, Ray's absolutely right. It's $300-400 on a high-end performance car. It can be $1,500. If you want a spare key for your Bugatti Veyron, it's a $6,000 proposition. So keys can be very expensive.
Yeah. And I just pulled these up. The cars start around $18,999, and the highest priced one on Craigslist right now is $189,900.
Yeah, and so as you can see, there's quite a spread on what you'll pay for a Porsche. That will depend on the model that it is, the engine horsepower, the options that it has. A full leather car with special paint, aero package, larger wheels. All those types of things, they're going to charge a lot more, but be mindful of that, because deluxe wheels usually means deluxe price tag for tires, and the super low profile tires, you're going to burn through them faster than you will other types of tires. Those are going to be expensive. A single tire might be $700-800. So be very careful purchasing a premium performance sports car, for the reasons that Ray mentions, of course, and the stuff that you do read about. And then again, once you've saturated yourself from doing that research and studying what you want out of the car, decide whether or not you need a Porsche to fulfill Porsche-like driving experience, because you may be able to get what you want out of an exciting, dynamic performance car from something else that's out there. And there are a lot of dynamic sports cars out there that are less expensive. A BMW Z4, for example, fabulous automobile, does not have as much of the maintenance issues as 911 does. Even a nicely optioned, more contemporary Miata is a fantastic driving car. The Lotus, the little Elise, fabulous little car. And you can get used ones for $25,000 to $35,000, and those are powered by Toyota engines. So they're very reliable. They're also pretty economical, and they don't cost a lot of money when things go wrong with them. So,
Another option too, if you could just rent one for a little while.
yeah, if you can, that's certainly a possibility. Again, with the Porsche Club, it's a great opportunity because there are enough people at the Porsche Club. Once you're a member, once you know things are, they do track days at the Porsche Club, and that does not mean you get inside a Porsche and go hauling ass around the track. It means you get inside and you can drive like a normal person in an area where you can really get the feel of the car and decide whether or not you like it. I'll tell you, my one Porsche experience was years ago when I went and I looked. I was going to buy one for my wife as a surprise because she liked the 911. So I went and I found one at a dealership in Bellevue, and I took it for a test drive, and it was just awful. Just awful. Now, granted, this was many years ago. It was in 1981, I think it was. And I just didn't like the way it drove, and it just did not feel right. And years later, I went and drove a newer one. It was light years difference, just a completely different car entirely. So make sure that you drive a wide range of them before you make any purchase decision.
Well, Ray would rather have an inflamed hemorrhoid than a Porsche as a daily driver. He says less stress. Now, I just went to Porsche.com, and they actually have a rental program where you can rent a 911 for $395 a day.
Yeah, and that's cheap if you think about what you can get. Now, I don't know how old Connor, is that who we were talking to? I don't know how old Connor is, but there will be some restrictions. So you want to be sure that you meet some of those limitations. But that's a fabulous investment just to figure out whether or not you really love the car. And again, the reason Porsche does this is they want you as a buyer. They want you not just to buy one car, they want you to continue to buy Porsches the rest of your life. Thank you. Okay, Connor. So you're in good shape. A lot of times young people will go in there and they don't have a bank history, they don't have a credit history, maybe they're 26, 27 years old, and that can be typically more problematic.
Well, the Porsche Drive locations, by the way, are right now Atlanta, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and San Diego. And you can actually rent any of their cars. So, that's a good idea if you're thinking I might want to drive one, or, rent it for a day, a month. For $400 a month, you have a Porsche for a day.
Yeah.
Get it out of your system. It's a lot cheaper. You don't worry about maintenance, and you don't get an inflamed hemorrhoid.
This is the thing that I tell people most of the time. They tell me, like a good friend, they go, I think it's time. I want to buy a boat. I go, wait, don't do it. Ray, you think Porsche is expensive. So I tell them, rent the boat. How many times are you going to take that boat out? The cost of renting once a month during the boating season, rent the boat, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, and the new electric Porsches that are coming out are going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the new stuff that's coming out. But now I think, we're flying through the show somehow. It's time for Raffi to go old school.
So today on Old School, believe it or not, you're going to laugh when you hear this one, Dan, and I've been digging around a lot because I'm trying to find stuff that people would remember but would not necessarily believe is going to be something worth investigating when we go old school. And that is, believe it or not, the Toyota Celica, the very first series Toyota Celica, the coupe and the fastback. Now, the fastback one is a really interesting car, and I'd like you to pull up both if you have a chance. The coupe is harder to find because the fastback was purchased in larger volume with more of the premium sports stuff on it, and people tended to take better care of them. But these cars came out, this was Toyota's first offering as an economical sporty car. It wasn't a sports car because it had a back seat, and the fastback, you could open the back as a hatch, so you could put groceries and things like that in the back. It was the ideal car for somebody who wanted something sporty, economical, and these came out 73, 74, So right in the middle of the gas crunch. And what you got was a fabulous automobile for not a lot of money. Now, here's this thing that's super interesting about this. If you look at that photo very closely and you pulled up a 1969 Mustang Fastback or 1970 Mustang Fastback, what you would find is that the Toyota Celica from this era is a 7/8 version of the Mustang Fastback. The Toyota Celica here, what they did was they tried to build a car that would appeal to Americans that liked the style of the Mustang, especially the fastback look, but wanted a more economical car, so slightly smaller in proportion and still very sporty. So the design team that worked on this car looked very closely at what sporty American automobiles looked like. So for the fastback, they copied the 69 Mustang, and for the coupe, they copied the 1970 Dodge Challenger. So you see a lot of similarities in those two designs. And this is what makes these cars very appealing. Now, Dan, you pulled up one with the slightly newer US type bumpers, but the earliest series Celicas had very trim bumpers, and they were quite elegant. Didn't have the big, thick, heavy 5-mile-an-hour bumpers. But either way, these are inexpensive cars with a lot of following today because they were so unique and so important in automobile marketing and manufacturing for Toyota in the United States. They literally made Toyota more than just an average economy car for buyers. They made a fantastic driving car that today is considered collectible.
Now, for my research here, 1970 was the first year, which means I could my goal to get a car with my birthday could actually be a Toyota Celica. I would have never thought.
Yeah, if you can find a 70, that's very, very rare. Now, 70 was a pivotal year for the Japanese automakers because the 240Z came out in 1970. And the Celica came out in 1970, but I don't know if the Celica was available in the US until 71. I'd have to do some research on that. But I always recommend the later year ones, the 73, 74, simply because you're not going to pay as much for them. Collectors have already discovered these cars, and the earliest series ones are going to be very expensive. You find one that's in visual condition like this, you're going to pay $25,000, $30,000 for it. But if you find a later series one that's in generally good shape, that you might tinker with a little bit, you can get away with $5 to $10,000 pretty easily. And then you've got a fun car that's pretty unique. It's got plenty of horsepower. You can have fun with it. What have you found here on Craigslist?
This is a 75 in Tacoma.
Yeah.
And they're asking $9,000 for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the car, it's in great shape. It's a solid car. Looks like it could use some cleanup and detailing. These photos are absolutely magnificent.
A little bit of rust.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a steel car, so it's not going to be complicated to do the body and paint work. You could do the body work yourself and then take it to a quality Mako and get a $2,500 nice paint job done on it. And I don't advocate paying $9,000 for this particular car because I have not seen it in person, but you could probably make an offer on that car and get it for maybe something in the mid sevens and fix it up, enjoy it yourself, do what you want to make it a little bit better. But they can be an awful lot of fun. And that's old school for today.
Well, there you go. The Toyota Celica.
Yeah.
He does have that one. The Spider. Ray's talking about the 700 remains is in his showroom, 2005. The Spider, Celica Spider. So it's the convertible.
Oh, a 2000.
That's an MR2. Was that an MR2, Ray? Toyota MR2?
If you had, the Toyota did make a Celica convertible, But if he's got a Spider, that's probably, like you said, Dan, that's probably the MR2, which is a two-seater mid-engine car.
MR not, MR2. And we'll close our show out today with our favorite segment of all.
How much is gas where you live?
You know, I'm not even sure why we do this, but but gas is gas.
Gas is gas.
Ray just sent a picture of his in his showroom. I'll go ahead and share this real quick of his MR2.
Yeah, and you know, MR2 is actually on my list for old schooling because great car, great value, lots of fun. You know, where else can you get an open mid-engine car? They're fabulous little cars, fabulous. Look at that showroom, Ray.
It's his real estate / auto lot.
It's fabulous. Look at that.
The lock boxes over here.
Resale red.
Yeah. Is that the one the hood had a problem with?
The hood?
He had a problem with the hood, if I remember correctly, on that one.
No,
but yes.
These are great cars. What is he asking for it?
Ray, if you'd like to sell, I don't know if he's going to sell it or if he's keeping it in there. It's a rare one, though. There were only 700 made.
Well, it might be one of the last years made. I know they didn't
so.
keep them in production very long. And I think if you said 05, I think 05 is the last year they made them. Because volume had dropped so much on those cars, Toyota thought that they would sell much better than they did. But it just really wasn't a usable car. If you wanted to take a trip with it, the luggage space was really limited. But if you were looking for something that was fun for around town and enjoyable cruising, that's a great one.
Ray just said, not for sale, I'd have to move my table. Too much work. All right, well, you don't want you to move your table, Ray.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. So, Raffi, what's the cheapest gas in the country?
I'll go Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's okay.
Oklahoma's $1.86.9, and they're number 4.
4? Who's coming down above Oklahoma? I know Missouri.
Missouri, of course, $1.81.5.
81, okay.
Missouri, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Those are the bottom of the country. The most expensive gas, as always, Hawaii, California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Pennsylvania.
But we got a nickel spread on the top 5, right? That's pretty amazing. So more and more states are starting to occupy a tighter squeeze on the low dollar. 180 something for a gallon of gas. That is phenomenal. When you think of the volumetric efficiency from a gallon of fuel, that you can go 30 miles for $1.86. That's an insane amount of energy conversion. This is why petrochemical fuels are still the dominant fuel for vehicles of any kind, whether they're trains, planes, you know, just the level of volumetric efficiency derived from that conversion is still an engineering phenomenon in my mind.
Yes, and from AAA, they do have your fuel-saving tips. I'll give the tip of the week is take your car to the repair shop as soon as possible if the check engine light comes on. That indicates a problem that's causing excessive emissions and likely reducing your fuel economy.
There you go. And change your air filter frequently. That, believe it or not, does make a difference.
There you go. Those are our tips. If you have any questions during the week, of course, you can send them to me directly, dan@danrosenberg.com. We forgot to do our movie review. We'll do that next week, the Gumball Rally. Give you more time to watch it.
There you go.
Next week's car movie review. We'll talk about the cars on there. And also next week, I think we'll bring back our best car deals segment, which we haven't done in a while, for the end of the year.
Awesome.
And then what I used to do on my other show was I would do a year-end, our top, we give awards, basically. We pick the car of the year, the truck of the year. So we'll come up with some ideas for some exciting awards to give, the official Clutch Radio awards. And we'll actually send them to whoever wins it. Maybe they'll put it on their website that they're an official winner.
Official Clutch Radio.
You never know.
We had certificates, right?
We'll do the the leaf-looking thing, the official selection. So it looks like you're in.
We got to get a laser-etched clear acrylic thing with our logo on.
The 2020 Hyundai Sonata is the Clutch Radio Car of the Year.
Car of the year.
You have to give it to somebody that wouldn't get it otherwise. That way, maybe they would use it in their.
Well, if we're gonna be doing this, we should give it to Bugatti. Then when we give it to them, they'll feel compelled to give us some perks. And Bugatti perks are probably more interesting than Hyundai perks.
This is very true. All right, well, that's it for this week. If you're listening to the podcast, we're live every Saturday at 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And if you're watching the show and you missed part of it, it'll be on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. You can find it there. Or you can get the podcast anywhere podcasts are, well, not sold, but available. Spotify, Apple.
And most importantly, they're recorded so that you have plenty of time to validate all of our unnecessarily false claims.
Yes, we guarantee nothing.
We guarantee nothing.
Get your money back.
Including the origin of the homoculator.
Not a homoculator. Just make sure you get a left-handed one, not a right-handed homoculator.
Oh, the right-handed ones were recalled.
Yeah, big mistake. All right, that's it. We'll see you next week. Drive safe.